welcome. So you're here because you're thinking about, well, building wealth a bit differently.
Yeah, that's the idea.
We're looking beyond the usual suspects today.
Right.
Stocks, real estate, maybe even crypto.
Yeah, moving into something potentially more tangible.
Exactly. We're diving into investing in collectibles. Might sound a bit surprising.
You can, yeah.
Our mission here is to really explore this world, rare art, vintage cars, even limited edition sneakers.
All based on the material you've pulled together.
Right. We want to see how these things, often overlooked as just hobbies, can actually be serious investment opportunities.
And the sources you've gathered really show that. A key theme is that value isn't always tied to, say, the S&P 500. It's more about that mix of, well, limited availability, strong desire, and maybe some cultural or historical weight behind it.
So it's not just hype.
Not entirely. I mean, you see those crazy option prices for famous art or classic cars in the headlines, sure.
Right.
But the opportunity, as we'll dig into based on your research, it goes beyond just those really high-end items.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with rare art. This isn't exactly new, is it? Your sources suggest the art market's been a place for investment for a long time.
Absolutely. It's a well-established market.
But it's not only about, Picassos or Rembrandts hanging in museums. Your research mentioned emerging artists, limited prints. How does that stuff become investment worthy?
Well, what's interesting, and your sources point this out, is how dynamic the art world is. Yes, established names offer some stability, but think about emerging artists. If you spot someone early and they gain critical acclaim, market recognition, their early works can really jump in value.
Like getting on the ground floor, you mean?
Exactly. And similarly, limited edition prints, especially if they're tied to a big cultural moment or by a respected artist, collectors really go after them, that drives up the value.
Okay.
And your materials also mention art as a tangible asset, something physical that can sometimes act as a store of value, maybe weathering economic storms better than purely digital things.
That makes sense. And you mentioned cultural shifts.
Yeah, that link to cultural movements, historical importance, that's often a huge factor in long-term value. One of your articles, for instance, talked about rising interest in certain contemporary movements directly boosting the value of art from that period.
So it's definitely not just about whether you like how a painting looks.
Definitely not.
It sounds like you really need to understand the trends, the artists' reputations. Do your homework, basically, like any investment.
That's a constant theme in the sources you provided. Knowledge is crucial. Understanding art history, market trends, who's up and coming.
Right. But what about access? For someone who maybe isn't looking to drop millions on one piece, did your sources mention entry points? I saw something about online platforms.
Precisely. Knowledge is number one. But you're right, accessibility is changing. Platforms like Masterworks, which you highlighted, they tackle this.
How they work.
They offer fractional ownership. So you can buy a small share of a very expensive artwork. It means you can invest a much smaller amount in a piece that would otherwise be totally out of reach. It really opens up the market, as some of your articles suggest.
Okay, fractional ownership. Interesting. Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me, maybe for you too, based on some articles you included. Sneakers.
Yes. Sneaker culture.
I mean, seriously, the shoes people queue for hours for,
Yeah.
they're an investment. Tell me about this, based on what you've been reading.
It sounds wild, but the growth of sneaker culture, which is well documented in your sources, has genuinely turned these limited releases into, well, an investment class.
How so?
Think about brands like Nike, Adidas, Jordan. They create these super hyped up shoes, limited numbers, sell out instantly.
Right, the scarcity factor.
Exactly. That scarcity plus massive demand from collectors and fans creates this huge resale market. Prices can just skyrocket.
How high are we talking?
Your research flagged examples. Some pairs appreciating over 1,000% in just a few years.
Wow, over 1,000%. That's a serious return if you pick the right pair, I guess.
If you pick the right pair, yes.
So if someone wanted to get involved in this, is it just luck of the draw trying to buy them when they first drop? Based on your info.
Well, getting them at retail is definitely part of it, sure. But the whole market around it has become way more sophisticated, as your sources show. You've got platforms like StockX, Stadium Goods. They basically operate like a stock market, but for sneakers.
Like a stock market?
Yeah. You can buy, sell, track historical prices, see current market values. It adds transparency, liquidity.
Okay.
So, to succeed, the information you reviewed suggests you really need to be plugged in, Know about upcoming releases, understand the hype, figure out which models might pop, maybe because of a collaboration or super limited numbers or some historical link.
So, anticipating trends again.
Absolutely. Anticipating trends and being ready to move.
Okay, fascinating. Let's shift gears now.
Hmm.
Completely different vibe. Vintage cars. Another area highlighted in your materials. This feels a bit more, I don't know, traditional.
In some ways, yes. Classic Ferraris, Porsches, they can fetch staggering prices at auction.
What's the investment appeal there, drawing from the sources you looked at?
Well, vintage cars, especially those really rare, iconic models from makes like Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini, their value can climb significantly over time. We're talking hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions.
Right.
And what's interesting here, and some of your articles mention this, is the tangible aspect. It's not just numbers on a screen or even art locked away. It's a physical car.
Something you can actually enjoy.
Exactly. You can admire it, maybe even drive it while its value is potentially going up. That's a unique appeal.
But hang on, it can't be as simple as buying any old classic car and waiting, can it?
Yeah.
I'm guessing, based on your sources, there's a hefty price tag up front and other considerations.
You're absolutely right. Investing in vintage cars, as your research makes clear, usually needs serious capital to start.
Okay.
And beyond just buying it, you need a really good eye for models that actually have appreciation potential. It's not every old car.
And the costs don't stop there, I imagine.
Not at all. Your materials really stress the ongoing costs. Specialized maintenance, classic car insurance, proper storage, often climate controlled. It all adds up.
Sounds like you need to be passionate about it, too.
Almost essential, according to several sources. A real passion for cars, willingness to learn about mechanics, restoration, market trends. It's often that blend of, enthusiasm and sharp financial thinking.
Okay, so we've touched on rare art, limited edition sneakers, vintage cars, all based on the info you provided. What's the big picture? Why? Why consider collectibles at all in an investment strategy? What ties these different things together?
Well, connecting it back to the broader investment world, like some sources do, the main reason is probably diversification.
Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Collectibles can offer returns that aren't always moving in lockstep with stocks or bonds, so they could potentially act as a buffer if the main markets get volatile.
Makes sense.
Plus, they offer this unique way to potentially build wealth, often driven by things like scarcity and cultural relevance factors that are kind of independent of typical economic forces.
And there's that personal connection element we talked about, isn't there? It's not abstract.
That's a really crucial point, and several of your articles hit on it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike, say, a stock certificate, these are physical things. You can often appreciate them, enjoy them personally, admiring art that speaks to you, owning sneakers from a specific cultural moment, driving a classic car. It's a different kind of reward.
Yeah, I can see that.
But, and this is vital, your sources consistently repeat this, the basics still apply. Thorough research, deep knowledge, understanding the market dynamics, that's non-negotiable for any collectible investment.
Right. Due diligence is key, no matter what you're buying.
Precisely.
So wrapping this up, it feels like exploring collectibles, based on the diverse materials you shared, could add, I don't know, a layer of creativity, maybe even passion, to building wealth.
I think that's a great way to put it. If you're looking to diversify beyond the traditional, maybe explore areas you're genuinely interested in anyway, then looking into rare art or vintage cars or even sneakers informed by the kind of research you've done could be a really compelling path to consider.
Which leaves a final thought for our listener. Thinking about everything we've discussed, drawing on these insights, what passions do you already have? Could there be untapped investment potential there? Maybe, like you mentioned in one note, that collection of first edition books, or your eye for emerging designers. It's definitely worth thinking about where personal enjoyment and financial growth might just intersect in this fascinating world of collectibles.